Hello, welcome to this video. I've been wanting to do a series of drum tuition videos for my YouTube. It seemed like an obvious thing for me to do. And I've been trying to think of all sorts of ways of presenting a regular series that drummers could come and have a check out of some of my more stranger ideas and some of my straightforward ideas as well, for that matter. I have sort of two types of rudiments. My first rudiments are what I call strokes. They're things the way I hit the drums. Now, I'm going to run through this very quickly, but if people want to go into depth, I may do some more videos where I have a look at the hand technique. I've done this in the past, but I'm going to go very simply now. So I'm holding the stick in a German grip. That means my hand is facing, the palm is facing the floor, the top of my hand is facing the roof. So if we imagine we sat at the drums like that, we get ourselves comfy, we put our hands into this position, just relaxed, our hands are flat there, we put the stick into there. Now I am utilising, for today, I'm not doing any clever things with my fingers. We will look at that on another day. We are basically just gripping the stick. Now, what a lot of people do is they grip the stick here, right? Some people do a second finger pivot here, like this. And in very rare circumstances, if I just put that up a bit higher, in very rare circumstances, they might grip from the back. My suggestion is when you practice in German and grip all the way down. So I've got all those fingers here, and this finger doesn't want to be tight. It wants to be just relaxed. And the pressure here is very loose. So we're spreading the grip across the whole stick, and we're now starting to rely on our wrist as our basic engine for drumming. Now, once we're in here, we can start to get a feeling of the stick from our wrist, and I'll often put my hand on my wrist to sort of isolate it like that, and just start moving it up and down until you start to get a feel for that going up and down. Now, what you might feel is if you grip too hard, it goes all stiff, and you don't want that. But if you grip too loose, the stick starts to move around, and you might want to try and just start gripping at the front like this. And I see lots of drummers playing like this. I would not play like that if I were you. So what we're going to do is if the stick's moving around, we're just going to try and squeeze at the back with our fingers. Now, this is quite a complex thing, actually, because my hand's going down. See, notice I'm not even hitting the drum yet. My hand's going down. It's relaxing. And the closest thing is the back grip, and then I'm pulling the stick up. Once you've got that, you can drop that onto the drum. Now, I have gone through something that probably needs an hour lesson, but that's called a full stroke. Left hand. That will get your wrist working, and there's a whole bunch of exercises to get this wrist working. Right, now, once you've got that working, right, we can now look at doing a whip. Now, a whip is the way we play an accent. So, whereas this stroke is starting here and ending up here, a whip actually starts here. And it involves this action if I slow it down. So you push up from your wrist. It's called a molar whip. Pushing up from your wrist there. Can you see that action? All right, can you see that? So it's as though I'm a puppet with a string on my wrist. It's being pulled up there. Once I get to that, I am then going to wind the stick down all the way around. That is really exaggerated. Right? And what's very important is when you end, you pull the stick up back to vertical, like this. Now, once you've got that stroke, you can just drop that onto the snare drum. Right? So we get this. And you can see, as I drop the stick on, I'm pushing into the next whip. So we get accents now. Notice how my arm's lifting to play the accent. Accents are very important. If I speed that up now and reduce the movement down, say once it was really, imprinted in my hands and in my brain, I could play this. Now we have two separate strokes here. We have a whip, and we have what is called a pull-out, which is where you hit the drum as you're pulling into a whip. Here it is in the left hand. So now we've got 3 strokes. We've got a straight wrist stroke, which was this. I'll speed that up now and reduce the movement down. Notice that I'm focusing on pulling the stick up fast, because that will generate speed if you're interested in speed, and I know you are really. And then we have a whip and a pull out. Now, most of you already play the drums. When you're playing a rock beat on your hi-hat, you will be playing a whip and a pull out usually. So most drummers do this on the hi-hat. Okay, so what you may find, and this will be a sort of fundamental technical weakness that you have, is that you can do this, but you can't do this. Or if you do that, it doesn't feel comfortable. That would be, for me, for someone who's got that weakness, that would be the exercise that they'd be doing for a week. Right, now let's put these all together. Now we're going to do a whip, a wrist stroke, and then a pull out. And we're going to get accents in every 3 now. I'm making sure that the stick, arc, everything is in line with my arm. So that's there, that is there. I don't want to be going out here or here, I don't want you to be taking the sticks out. Now we can have a go at a single stroke roll on the snare drum. And I suggest you start slow and big. So you're doing like full strokes. That there is basically stick height. So when I'm doing this faster, it's basically less stick movement, and you will develop that skill simply by doing this exercise. Lovely. So those are my 3 basic strokes: the whip, the wrist, and the pull out. Okay? They are, for me, the 3 basic rudiments on the drums. But when we're talking about rudiments, we often mean sticking patterns. And as you saw on the title of this video, we're going to be looking at a single stroke roll, which goes basically right, left, right, left. Now, most drummers use this in 2 ways. They use it as a fill, and this happens. Okay? So they use the single stroke roll to go down and hit, or sometimes, especially if you go back to the 1980s, you'd be doing this. And we're going to be exploring both of those qualities, really straightforward stuff. So let's now apply the single stroke roll to our kit. And I'm going to assume you've got a kit like this with a snare and 3 toms, but you can adjust it if you've just got 2 toms. So the first exercise that I would do with a student who's now putting a single stroke roll onto the drum kit would be this. I would get them to go onto the floor tom, and I would get them to do right, left, right. But I would get them to whip down on either the first one like this, or sometimes I get them to whip down on the last one. So if I put that together, we get this. And I suggest at that point you start to improvise, but very narrowly, just using the whip when you want to. And you will start to see then how that single stroke roll exercise has actually a lot more colour inside it. The next exercise is I would get you to do the opposite on the snare drum, left, right, left, with the same whipping patterns. Right, and mess around with those. Now, I can feel a little bit of discomfort there doing that, so that would be my practice routine. Let's have a go at that so I can just warm that up a little bit. Right, so I'm trying to expand that out and improvise with it, right? So now, say we've got comfortable with that, we're now going to put these together. So I'll put an accent at the beginning, I think, keep it easy for now. So we're going to do this, right, right on the tom, and then left, left on the snare. So we're going to do this pattern, right, left, right, left. Now, you can see, as I get into that, the whips are creating a pattern. So my hands are starting to learn this pattern here. Basically, if you start here, I'd be going whip, and then here, then here. So we're getting this pattern. This microphone's a little bit in my way, which is what's making me go a little bit wrong. I've always got excuses, chaps. Always have your excuses ready. So... Now, if we put that together, we now get this. Now, what I find with my students, as soon as they start to explore this, they now have a continual single stroke roll on the kit that's moving between different voices. This is the first starting point. And they find very quickly that the speed just comes in if they follow these things through. It can be only a matter of minutes to go through the order of that I've just shown you, but we start to get this down. We can now move that onto the toms here. Now, I'm playing it fast so you can sort of see the speeds you could aim at. But if I was practicing this, it would be very mid-tempo, nice and relaxed. Right, and I'm now starting to expand it off. I'll explain what I'm doing here. So now, if I start here and do my fill, I can go right, left on my snare, right, left on my first tom, and then I'm going to do right, right here, then left, right, and then I'm going to do left, left. These will turn you around. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Now I've moved it down to the floor tom. Here's another one you could try. So that's right, left, cross your right hand over your left, right, left, and then open them back up. Right, so now let's put these together. Now what you've got there is an improvisational process applied to a single stroke roll, and you can now practice at whatever speed you've got. And theoretically, once you've got all that in place, if you spend a couple of weeks just doing that every single day, you will then develop some speed around the drums with a single stroke roll. Now, there's another one we're going to look at. We're now going to look at this one. So we're going to do right on the floor, left, right on the snare, left on the tom, and then right, left on the snare. This is what happens when you get old and don't do enough practice. This is why I'm getting a practice session doing here, and I'm teaching at the same time. But I'm making myself look like a fool. It's the microphone that's put me off, I promise you. So now I'm going to slowly put all those things together and try and improvise with them. A little bit inaccurate, but you get the picture. So that is how I would apply singles onto the drum kit. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes and move it over to the hi-hat. Can I put that there? Can you be able to hear me? Right, so here's a single stroke roll on the hi-hat. Let's count the right hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1. 1 and 2 and depending on how you want to count it. And let's bring the backbeat in. That's a straight 16th note rock beat. I'm sure you all know it. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take that bass drum and we're going to move it through every single part of that beat. Now this beat is basically structured out of 8 components. We're going to count them. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 6, 7, 8. Now, the easiest way to count that would be 1 E and a 2 E and a, like this. One E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. Now, the challenge is to put that bass drum on every single component of that 2 beat phrase with 8 16th notes in. So I've got it on the 1 at the moment. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. We are now going to put it onto the E. So here we go. 1 E and a 1. Now we're going to put it on the and of 1. Now we'll put it on the E of 1. Then we're going to put it on the 2. Now we're going to put it on the E of 2. Now we're going to put it on the and of 2. Now we're going to put it on the da of 2. Now I'm going to run through that, sort of doing, I'll probably do 4 on each one in a row. So I get used to consciously putting it in the right place, and I also get used to the feeling and the non-linear coordination problems that will be in this pattern if you haven't practiced this stuff. Lovely, we got that. Now, the way of practicing all those different positions is to put the bass drum every 3/16 notes. So if these would be our 16th notes, we're going to put them every 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If we play that 16th notes, we now get this. Now we are going to play that against this. Right, those fills that I'm making there are totally out of the single stroke roll. I'm not actually changing the pattern at all. So we've got that. Next, we're going to take 2 bass drums, do exactly the same thing. We're going to do it on the 1 and the E. Well, it's not exactly the same thing, but it's nearly exactly the same thing. We're going to do the 1 and the E, then the E and the and then the and the da, and then move our way through. So we get this now. And if we use triplets, so we go to basically dotted eighth notes every 3/16 again, we're going to get this pattern. So we're going to go. Which sounds like this. So let's put that into the beat. I've not been dropped on camera. Oh, I tried to be professional, but it's still an Andy Edwards production, isn't it? Sorry about that, everybody. Why do I try and show off? Don't try and show off. Bloody hell. Oh, I'm leaving it all in. I'm leaving it all in because all these other people, they would edit all this out. And I tell you something, I ran these just before, just to make sure I could play them. Absolutely easy. Easy peasy, never went wrong. And now the camera is on, it's harder. And so, film yourself. You all have mobile phones. Film yourself, then watch it back, and then you let yourself be the judge. You will know what to do to make it better. Right. Now, I've got 3 more interesting patterns for you to do now, based on a single stroke roll. So rather than playing it like this, we're going to put our left hand back onto the snare drum and play this. Which sounds quite interesting, doesn't it? But when we come to the snare drum and hit the snare drum, we're going to uncross our hands and put the left hand onto the hi-hat. So if I slow that down, it would be this. Now, there is a myriad of ways of making a single stroke roll sound interesting and making it sound like it's not a single stroke roll. And I can give you like days worth of these different patterns if you want. But here, and they're very easy and most people can get them, but they sound cool. So let's put this up to speed now. Now you can see, because I've been working through these bass drum patterns, hopefully you'll have some sort of coordination there. I don't want to run through the whole thing again with this pattern. I'm just going to play the dotted eighth note patterns. So that would sound like this. Once you're there, then you should have the chops to start improvising that bass drum into your own patterns. I played a double then. Wasn't supposed to do that. Everything today was supposed to be singles. Right. Let's get into one more pattern using single stroke rolls, and I think there will be enough to be getting on with this nice little lesson that I've just done, and then I'm going to get a bit creative after that. So the next one is, if we take the single stroke roll here, we're going to remove the hit on the bass drum. So here it is on the bass drum. See, again, it sounds completely different. But we're now going to put the right hand on the ride cymbal, keep this over here, I'll have to move this out of the way, and bring our right hand on the second beat over to hit the snare drum like this. Now, if you could let Steve Gadd know that I'm borrowing his beat at the moment, you can have it back in a bit. How would you start to work with this? Well, I would put 4 bass drums on both and just start to move your hands around where they feel comfortable, a little bit like this. Okay, you've got that, and I opened up the hi-hat. I didn't play that, I just opened it up. Let's have a mess around with that and add some bass drums to it. This aspect of practice where you take a pattern and you mess with it and improvise with it is the final piece of the jigsaw. Right, so I think I'll finish up. What else could we do with singles now? There's so much that we could do, but at this point, I would start replacing part of the single stroke roll with either a bass drum or a double. And that takes you towards linear play and also rudimental play. So it will be a little bit like this. You'd start like this. everything I'm doing there is singles, and now it's starting to get complex. Okay, so that was replacing some of those with a single. Now you can now put in doubles. There's two ways you could put in doubles. You could crush them in like this. My left hand's weak today, come on. So my left hand's struggling a little bit. So let's get an exercise out of that. That's a lot of the stuff I've been teaching recently came out of my desire to move my left hand into German. And so I basically had to start again. If I was playing it as I used to play very cock-handedly. I could play technically all the stuff, but this left hand was much more in French. I mean, and that would be the natural way. I've spent about a year around it this year, but still some of the fast doubles are hurting a little bit. Do that exercise, you can see, because I'm not warmed up, but these work. There's aspects to these exercises I'm showing you which will develop technique far faster. The other way is to just put a double in at the same rate. Now, if I put all the stuff that we've covered together now and just put that randomly on the kit, we get this. We pretty much are at the back end of drum soloing, and I've really only been thinking here in single stroke rolls at a 16th note level. That's all I've been working on, just adding bits in here and there. If you start to practice like this, and as you master it, you just throw that just a little thing in, rather than go, right, I now have to bring my Ratomy cues in, or my, half flammed mills. We don't work like that. That is not the way to go. And this is what I'm going to try and do on these lessons. So this has been my first one, just exploring singles. If this gets the views of people, or it doesn't get the views, but people really like it, we'll be looking at double strokes next week. And then we'll be following that up with compound triplets. And those there's 4 sticking patterns there. They become the basis of my technical approach to the drums. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was some use. I apologise for the mistakes, but I was determined to just come in here, sit down, play, and for you to see it warts and all, whatever you want to think about me. I don't really care. I do really. I want you to think I'm good. I thought I'd show you around my drum kit because it's something pretty special. As you can see here, this is my drum kit. What we have here is a British Drum Company drum kit with a spalted maple finish. This is one of the Legend series, as you can see. Absolutely beautiful drum kit. Take you up over above and have a look. And I'm also playing my Dream cymbals as well. Thought I'd take you close up onto the snare drum. So the snare drum here is an aviator. So this is actually an aluminium snare, and that is not something that's been put on it. That's the actual metal that has been brushed. It's absolutely beautiful. Very smooth action there, as you can see. This kit sounds lovely. I'm playing Remo pinstripes, and I've got control sound on the snare drum. Here we've got my bass drum, playing the older Tama Speed Cobra there, as you can see, and here's the toms here. As you can see, it says Legend Series here, Special Edition. Beautiful kit. 10, 12, 16. I got snare there, and I've got an old Tama 12-inch snare drum there. The hi-hats I'm playing are the Dark Matter range, very dark. So I have here, as you can see, the Dark Matter 14-inch hi-hats. I've got a 16-inch Dark Matter crash here. Here we got Dark Matter Bliss Paper Thin 19. That's a beautiful sound. And then my absolutely huge 26-inch vintage Bliss Ride in the Dark Matter, actually 24-inch, sorry. I added on a few inches, as we often do every now and then. And then I've got a Bliss. Now, which one's this one here? Someone asked me this the other day. Doesn't say, that's why I don't know the name of it. But this is one of the Dream China. So that is my kit. It's absolutely beautiful. We recorded it today. If you want to know how I've been recording today, I have basically got two cheap condenser microphones, one there positioned near the floor tom, and I've got one there, and I've broken the grip, so it's just dangling somewhere in the vicinity of the two front toms. Then I have that 57 there, just pointing at the snare drum. I've basically got 4 mics on this kit, so you're basically just hearing it with those 4 mics. And then at the front, I've got a Beta 52 just wedged into the hole there. Right, and so that's this. These overheads aren't plugged in for this video. It's basically been just those 4 mics. And the majority of the sound is just off the 2 condensers on the toms. That's the majority of the sound. And I'm just using a little bit of the attack off the snare and a little bit of attack off that bass drum pedal. So that's what we've got. I'm running it then into this Helix Phonic mixing desk, 24 channel. There, it's all quite basic actually. And then I'm running it into a very old Mac and a very old version of Cubase. This is my little studio here, and I love it. And we're in this big room here. And this room, as you can see, is not square. I don't know if you can see here, but it's not actually square. And also we've got a lot of different surfaces with the roof, the brick, the wood, the sort of normal plastered walls, and the glass. And so this is an absolutely perfect acoustic to be recording my drums in. So that was a little sort of guided tour of my drum kit. British Drum Company, they're incredible. Go and check them out. They really are the Bugatti of drums, and the Dream cymbals are beautiful. I'm really happy with my kit. I wasn't happy with my drums for a few years until I got in touch with British Drum Company and Dream, and they've really helped me out, sorting me out, giving me what I need, and that is beautiful. What do you think?